عليه وسلم. اللهم علمنا وانفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما in your intentions. And we're doing this for the sake of Allah, and we are continuing with the women around the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Very important book. We reached Asma Bint Umays, the woman of the two migrations. She made two hijras for the sake of the Prophet, for the sake of Allah, and we're gonna explore that. So a lot of the companions, some of them, believe that hijrah was restricted to Mecca, to Medina. So the concept of hijrah is something from hajara, to go, to leave, to go somewhere, to migrate. And it is something that can be, it needs to have an intention, okay? First and foremost, has to be an intention for the sake of Allah. You're going somewhere for the sake of Allah. And the hadith of hijrah is linked to the hadith of niyyah. And Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن كانت هجرته للدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكهها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. And this is that whoever makes the every intentions by the deeds, and whoever's migration was for Allah and for the Prophet ﷺ to be with him, then this is hijratu ilallahi wa rasul. But however, if someone has a different intention and it is for what that he intended for, you can travel, you can make hijrah for work, you can make hijrah for marriage, you move on to another country because your husband is there or your wife is there. However, it's just work, marriage, that's all you're gonna have. When you make an intention to do it for the sake of Allah, you know, you migrate, for example, to Malaysia from the West. You know, like the way I did when I did, but sadly, I miss Malaysia so much, sadly, because of the strict laws and the, you know, they kind of made it in such a way that it's almost impossible, very difficult, not impossible, very difficult for people to stay in Malaysia for too long if they're not Malaysian, right? And you know, many ulama have left Malaysia, sadly. Sheikh Yusuf, for example. I think he's gone back now, but you know, many people sadly have had to leave, and it's been very difficult. But inshallah, I'll accept the hijrah because the intention is there to do it for his sake. And yeah, it's not easy to make hijrah. It's a very difficult thing. I think obviously for Malaysians, they don't understand that well, that concept, because they're already in Muslim country. But sometimes, for example, you might be in a neighborhood in Malaysia that's not good, surrounded by Hindus and people are not so inclined towards the deen. And a person can say, I'm going to leave this neighborhood and go to another one. I'm going to move to another area in Malaysia or in Kuala Lumpur that's more religious, closer to a musalla, a masjid, so I can practice my deen better. Okay? And this is also hijrah. You make an intention. I want to leave this neighborhood. I want to leave this part because it's not good for my deen. I'm going to go for something that's better for my deen. And that's also hijrah. It's a made intention and you're moving for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Yeah, exactly. Brunei, Malaysia, many of the Muslim countries, actually, even in like the UAE or something. Like once your job is done, or it's not that simple, it's not that easy. And sadly, most people return to the country of their passport because that's where you have all your rights, I guess. And that's how they set it up, by the way. They set it up in a way where the Muslims cannot gather all in one place. So first it was the Khalij, people wanted to go to Arabia. Then a lot of people went to Malaysia, MM2H and all that. Then a lot of people had to leave. A lot of people now went to Turkey. Now even Turkey is a bit difficult. Some people are going to Morocco. It's not easy. And some people are just returning back to the country of their passport, sadly. And Yeah, it's just not good. I pray that inshallah Allah opens up the doors for Hijrah again. I really want to, honestly. Wallahi. Really don't want to die in the lands of the kuffar. Yeah. So inshallah khair. Yes, I know that they revised that in M2H, but it's still not that easy. But inshallah khair. You know, anyone ever has any solutions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Really, really, considering. But anyway, going back to that, so the earliest Muslims, the Badr warriors, okay, um, it is one of the levels of Iman Islam that like titles the earliest Muslims, the Badr warriors, and so on. They therefore assume that those who migrated to Abyssinia and stayed there till the day of the Battle of Khaybar had no reward of migration, which is not true. This opinion worried Asma bint Umays. Okay, so you see a woman who's worried about not her makeup, not her whatever popularity, but about reward. She then came to the Prophet ﷺ, distressed, and she asked him of the truthfulness of what some of the companions are saying. The Prophet of Allah ﷺ told, you have two migrations and the people have one. The Prophet's statement to Asma was to soothe her nerves and to console her. It was rather an explanation of the reality, a clarification concerning an ambiguous matter and the way to preventing crisis. So for those who left Mecca for Abyssinia, running away with their religion, they really migrate. Okay. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Alam takun ardullahi wasiyatan fatuhajiru fiha. Is the earth of Allah not wide enough so that you may migrate in it? Okay. Now let's go down. Oh, the ones who migrated to Abyssinia was the first migration to Abyssinia. And there was a second migration to Abyssinia as well, as we know. Abyssinia was the first land of migration. Now let's go down. No. So it is not only that when they arrived in Medina and before they could settle down, in spite of them being exhausted by the long journey, throughout the land and the sea, and through the nights and days, they learned that the Messenger ﷺ was on a battle in Khaybar, and they proceeded there. They endured the pain and hardship, yet they were in it to meet the Prophet ﷺ. And here again, you can take a great lesson about the obsessive almost love, positive, that they had towards the Prophet ﷺ. Right? Like today, people are like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, the Prophet ﷺ back in those days was different. And da, 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 this and that. These people, they love the Prophet ﷺ more than themselves, more than anything. And that's the question. Do we love the Prophet ﷺ as much as we claim to? Do we love him the way we love ourselves, the way we love our mobile phones, our Instagram accounts, the way we love our children, our wives, and our husbands, and the way we love our jobs and our cars, and the money we have in our bank account? Are we willing to sacrifice for the sake of Allah, and specifically here, to support the Prophet ﷺ? This is a great question that needs to be asked. Meaning, how are you going to support the Prophet and work? Through your dawah, through your work, through your money, through investing in dawah projects. There's so much we can do, but we don't. This is the question. Do we actually love the Prophet ﷺ? Then people have the guts to say anything about the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. And right now we are in Muharram, and Muharram uh, is the first month of the Islamic calendar, and it is the first month of the holy months that are restricted. And these are the first, the 7, the 11, and the 12, right? You know that, right? First, the 7, the 11, and the 12. Right? محرم صفر ربيع الأول ربيع الثاني جمال الأولى جمال الأخرى رجب and شعبان Ramadan, Shawwal, Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah. These are the months of Islam, right? So this is, we need to know them. So first, 7, 11, 12. It's easy to remember. First, 7. I know you guys have a 7-Eleven in Malaysia, so you know 7-Eleven. Remember, it's a Q in memorization. We go first, 7, 11, 12. All right, it's easy to remember. These are the forbidden months. Okay? Yeah. So it's Muharram now, and of course the Shias are going crazy. You guys probably don't have Shias in Malaysia, but for example, where I am right now, they are. You can see people dressed in black, and you can see people don't wear stuff. Today, there's even a lecture at the masjid right now, as we're speaking, obviously, because I have the class. I couldn't stay, but there's a lecture to deal with the issue of Ashura and what happened in the assassination of Imam Hussein, radiallahu anh, or even we can say alayhi salam. And we can say, by the way, alayhi salam on the family of the Prophet ﷺ. And some people try not to do that because it's like the Shias do it, but there's nothing wrong with saying that. And what's the evidence for it? We know very well. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. So you can say send salawat on the Ahl, on the Ali of Muhammad, the family of Muhammad sallallahu. Okay. So you can say Ali alayhi salam. You can say Hussein alayhi salam. You can say anyone from the family and including his wife. You can say alayhi salam. It's not common. People don't say it's probably because of the cultural practices of, okay, that's for the Shia. But again, the evidence is very clear in at-tashahhud 5 times a day. And, you can times that by how many times we do, we sit for tashahhud. So we say it, right? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. So, yeah, so this is Muharram. But look at the love of the companions. That's why Allah says, radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. He is pleased with them and they are pleased with him. Now, the Shia, they insult and curse the Sahaba. It's part of their aqidah that you have to do it. You cannot be a Shia unless you hate Abu Bakr Umar, especially Uthman. Okay? So you have to, according to them, do that. Now, but look at the love. Now, who can claim that type of love towards the Prophet? They sacrificed their lives for him. They lived and died for the Prophet, for the deen, for the message of Islam. How much are we doing? That's the question. How much are we doing? That is the question. Now, so anyway, they arrived at the Battle of Khaybar when the battle had already happened. The Prophet conquered, and the Prophet was so happy, but he was more happy of the arrival of Ja'far. Ja'far, radiallahu anh, who was related to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So he acknowledged the efforts of the immigrants, and he put the conquest of Khaybar and the difficulties the Muslims faced in the battle on the same level. Okay. And the arrival of Ja'far and his fellow immigrants, they're so happy. They're so happy now. Let's go down. So Asma is among the first Muslims. She and Ja'far. Okay. Right, we're going to talk about that, about who's included in the family of the Prophet. So Ja'far was the husband of Asma, right? She embraced Islam early with Ja'far, and they were newlywed when they set out for Abyssinia as immigrants in the path of Allah. Islam had overwhelmed their lives. Instead of staying in Mecca, they had their honeymoon in the path of jihad and struggle in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So Asma was on the same level of greatness that manifested in the personality of her husband, Ja'far. She was enduring, she was this, she was that. Obviously, she had to put up with a lot. It's so much more difficult to travel for a woman. Men are more built for it. It's more in line with their fitrah. You can imagine that she's put up a lot to be able to, but this is the love that some of the women had for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So definitely women will put in more effort and it'll be more difficult for them when they travel, when they migrate, it's just, because women want to have more consistency, more safety, more stability in one place. When they do that, they go against that safety, stability. And men need to appreciate a good woman who is willing to do that. Okay, and she does it for the sake of Allah, and she's good, and she's not some weird woman doing weird stuff. And she's fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a golden, it's a golden blessing. Now, let's go down. Now, so go down again. Yeah. So we know that the migration to Abyssinia was not easy because the people were not Arabs, they're African. And they're Christian, they're different. It was not easy. Not to mention the conspiracies and problems that Quraysh were causing. Okay. So Asma spent sometimes we don't understand. We think it's just like that's it. They went to Abyssinia and for a few months and then come back. Spent 15 years there. Okay. Uh, she saw many things. Children born, people died, children grew up, things occurred. Okay. So this is very important that we understand it was a long, long time, right? A long, long time. Prophet ﷺ would keep in touch with them, even though it's not that far, but he would send different emissaries and different messengers to give them the development of the new verses that were being revealed, legislation. They didn't have phones, they didn't have emails, nothing to communicate with, so it would have to be in person. So Asma, she came back from Messina with 3 sons, Abdullah, Muhammad, and Aun, subhanAllah. And it was after Asma returned from Abyssinia that she faced the real test. The Prophet ﷺ sent her husband Ja'far out the battle of Mu'tah, okay, as a substitute leader of the Muslim army after Zayd bin Haritha, who was later to be martyred. And we know that they died. Right? Imagine he just came back and boom, he gets sent for jihad. Right? So the Battle of Mu'tah was the first of its kind between the Muslims and the Roman in the history of the Dawah. The Muslims' army considered just 3,000, while the Romans were outnumbering. Huge, huge, huge. Okay. They're saying some numbers are 100,000 soldiers. Allah alam, yani it was that much. But it doesn't matter. It was definitely a huge outnumbering. And the Prophet ﷺ, the reason for the war is that the Prophet ﷺ sent Al-Harith ibn Umayyad al-Azdi to the king of Basra with a letter inviting him to Islam, and he was attacked and killed. And that is a declaration of war. You cannot kill the messengers. Now, let's go down. That was a big battle. It was a big, big battle. And he appointed 3 commanders. And there's a succession. If anyone falls, who's going to take it over? So the first commander, second, third. Okay. And so on. Now let's go down. And this is, we'll see, this is the time where Khalid bin Walid, he will take the stand there of Muslims and he will rise to fame and strength. So 3 commanders, Zayd, Ja'far, and Abdullah ibn Rawah. All of them fell. Okay, all of them were martyred. All of them died. And they appointed Khalid as the commander. Okay, and he was able to deceive the Roman and the Ghassanid allies. He then brought the Muslims out of the battle without their enemy, who were much greater number. Okay, and it was a horrible battle. And the Muslims lost, basically. Okay, but Khalid made a maneuver to save them. Okay, and Khalid never lost a battle. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed in such a way that he never lost a battle. And I want you to pause here for a second because, especially for the men of this ummah, again, to understand Khalid and why Khalid is so important. And this was a man of, people could say like arrogance or this or that, but he was a man of strength, a man who didn't doubt. a man who went forward and knew he was the best at what he was doing. And yeah, there's criticism. There's always going to be criticism around him and around people like him because these are people who are not your typical default conformist type of person, right? They will push the boundaries, but they will get results. Not everyone has to be like Khalid, but we definitely need some people like Khalid in the Ummah. Okay. So now let's go down. Now, so Ja'far died. Okay. Ja'far died because his hand was cut off as he was holding the banner. And the Prophet ﷺ told that, and both hands actually were cut. And the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah substituted his cut off hands, two of them with wings, in which he could fly in paradise wherever he wishes. May Allah make us amongst those who fly in paradise like green birds. Right? This is the great honor that people don't even seek today anymore, and they're afraid of, and they just don't want nothing to do with it. Okay, so Asma was extremely sad and broken. She had the right to do so. For Ja'far was an amazing man. He was a very, very good man. Let's go down. And Asma, tears, they never dried up, and she never ceased crying until Allah's Messenger visited her on the third day and consoled her. He requested for the audience of Ja'far's sons, and they all came. Abdullah ibn Ja'far informed us in the following narration. The Prophet ﷺ gave Ja'far's family some time to mourn. Then he visited him and said, "Do not cry over my brother after this day." He then said, "Bring the children of my brother to me." Allahu Akbar. Let's go down. Allahu Akbar. "Bring the children of my brother to me." And we were brought to him like young birds. He then said, "Call the barber for me." And the barber came and shaved our heads. The Prophet ﷺ said, "As for Muhammad, he looks like our uncle Abu Talib." Allahu Akbar. "As for Abdullah, he resembles me physically and behaviorally." Allahu Akbar. He then held my hand and raised it and says, "Oh Allah, be the support of Ja'far's family and bless Abdullah in the transactions of his hands." He said so 3 times. Look at the behavior of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Look at the subhanAllah, the mercy and the way he made time and how he's making dua and how he's interacting with the kids and shaving their head. Like, why shave their head? Okay. Because I don't know, there's something when you go to trauma, if you notice ever, you find that a lot of people shave their head, especially men, right? Whenever they suffer. Like you don't want to deal and think about hair and fixing your hair. You're gonna be, it's easier to just not think about, right? Oh, did I do my hair today and all that? Just focus on recovery, focus on what's important. Maybe this is why Allahu A'lam. You do see when people go through some difficulties or some mission or something tough or something happens or trauma, especially with men, these are 3 boys that they shave their heads. Okay, interesting. Now let's go down. Now, uh, obviously the mother came, Asma, and she was complaining. Typical women do obviously complain. It says whining over that. Of course, typical, normal, because her husband just died, right? Of course. So the Prophet told her, "Asma, are you afraid of poverty for them while I am the guardian of this world? I am their guardian in this world and the hereafter." Allah Akbar. Asma then devoted all her time in caring for herself and her children. She trained them and brought them up in a proper manner, while the Prophet ﷺ never forgot Asma and her son, for he is closer to the believers than their own selves. He would visit them whenever the opportunity arose, and he would ask about their situation and show kindness and send them gifts. The situation continued in the manner until the day of the Battle of Hunayn. Abu Bakr had just been widowed of his wife, Roman. Okay, we know that. So the Prophet ﷺ married Asma to Abu Bakr, okay, according to the narration. We see again how, subhanAllah, they wouldn't leave like women behind, they wouldn't leave women not married. They wouldn't leave women, have children behind. And they were, and Abu Bakr was a real man, right? Of course, these days, most men will not want to take care of a woman as children. But we look at these, especially their close companions, they were just at a different level. And obviously, he was not his only wife, so this also made it easier. But definitely, they were on another level. Yeah. So, it's unclear to us whether Abu Bakr showed interest in marrying her, or was it the Prophet ﷺ who made this choice. And in this case, the marriage was consolidated from two sides, Abu Bakr and Asma. Abu Bakr was the first to embrace Islam. He lost his wife at that time, so she lost her husband, and they came together, mashallah. He was the second of the two men in the cave, and he was the first minister, the trusted advisor, and the most trusted companion of the Prophet ﷺ, who spent his wealth, his life in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Asma, on the other hand, was one of the earliest female Muslims. We know that. And she had a lot of knowledge, migrated twice, and she was the wife of Ja'far, the flying martyr. It was an honor even for Abu Bakr to marry her. And because she was the wife of Ja'far, such a big honor. Right? And they're related to the Prophet ﷺ. Now, let's go down. No. Asma lived in the house of Bakr as a satisfied, honorable, and responsible wife. She did rights and fulfilled the covenants. She had a son for Abu Bakr, whose name is Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. And, we'll talk about him maybe later, but yeah, he was one of the sons of Abu Bakr. And we can see here, you're talking about here, like, Abu Bakr is old, man. I'm talking about, like, they're not young, they're all still having children and getting married. Well, today, and the guys at 40 are dead. They're finished. They're done. Right. So, Abu Bakr showed when he was in his illness, when she died, he ordered there was Asma who would wash him when he died. Okay. So look at that, right? He wanted Asma to wash his body to make the ghusl for him, and she is his wife. So now look what happens next. Abu Bakr dies. That's it. Does she like live and stop, and that's it? So she goes from Ja'far to Abu Bakr. All right. Now, from Abu Bakr, he dies, she goes to Ali. Okay. And she married Ali, and she had a son from him now, Awn. Okay, so I had another son, subhanAllah, from Ali. Asma lived in the house of Ali now. All the obligations, no negligence, no sluggishness, everything. No matter what happened, now she's in the house of Ali, radiallahu. Beautiful. Okay, so now she is married to Ali. It was reported that her sons, Muhammad ibn Ja'far and Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr, bragged to each other one day, each of them telling the other that he was better, his father was better than the other. Ali was present, and he asked Asma to judge between them, and he said, "You wonder that Ali wanted to test her intelligence or just wanted to know the extent of love and sense of obligation that she had. So what do you think that she answered, and who is better? Is it Abu Bakr or Ja'far?" Okay, so she was very, very smart, and she gave a very good lesson. She answered without hesitation, saying, "I have never seen a young man better than Ja'far, and I have never seen a middle-aged man better than Abu Bakr." Then the two boys then kept quiet and stopped their bragging. So she was very smart in the way she responded. Who's better in terms of, well, Abu Bakr is better, of course, but she was very smart. She doesn't want to hurt anyone. Extremely, extremely, very, very, very wise. Asma. Okay, very smart. No, no. So she married Ali. Okay, and keep in mind, she had children from all of them. Okay, and all of them had children with her. It was then Ali spoke jokingly, "What have you left then for us?" Meaning, yani, look at Ali. Yani. For him, yani, we will answer this question by Allah's help. Asma had maintained the same stand, the same way. How could she change? She was a woman who Islam melted, and she was following the teaching the Quran and Sunnah, right? So Asma's journey from this world and started drawing near when the news of death of her son Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr came to her from Egypt, right? She went to her prayer corner in her home, concealed her, and she prayed, and there she kept making Sunnah prayers. And this is a bit longer, long after Muhammad ibn Bakr was at the time of the fitna of Uthman radiallahu anhu. We know that. We studied actually this. He was one of the people, sadly, who entered the house to stab Uthman, but then Uthman told him that, don't you remember what your dad said and how he raised you in Sunnah? And he became shy and left. Big fitna. Anyway, let's go down. No. So obviously it hurt her as a mother, subhanAllah, and you can only imagine, may Allah protect our mothers and our fathers from ever experiencing the loss of a child. It's very, very difficult, very, very tough. May Allah protect. Very tough. Okay. So she, she had a negative effect on her. She started bleeding, it says, from her breast. And lost so much blood that she eventually died. SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah. May Allah be pleased with her. May Allah give her the highest place in Jannah. Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. So an amazing woman, Asma bint Umays, the woman of the two hijras, the woman of marrying three of the greatest Sahabas, Ja'far, Abu Bakr, and Ali. Amazing, like three of the greatest Sahabas, having children from all of them. Just things, just amazing, 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 amazing. No, and we look at these women, subhanAllah. Yeah, look at her. She didn't like want to be some kind of special woman. She just stayed in home, prayed, take care of the children. And yeah, it's great. It's a beautiful, beautiful, story, beautiful example. Now, let's go down. Okay, Ma'bad, radiallahu anha, Atiqa bin Khalid al-Khuzayya. Ma'bad is her nickname, and her name is connected to the greatest event in the history of Da'wah, and that is the Hijrah. So she was famous, chaste, strong, and courageous woman. She had a camp in Qudayd, and she used to sit down in the courtyard and wrapped in her garment, giving food and drink to the travelers who passed by her. The Prophet ﷺ and his companion Abu Bakr um, and Amir bin Fuhaira, a free slave Abu Bakr, and their guide uh, took rest at her camp. The people were then suffering from a severe drought, and the Prophet ﷺ and his companions asked for some milk, meat, and dates, which they're ready to pay for. But unfortunately, they did not get any, for she said, by Allah, if we had anything, we would not be lacking in showing hospitality. So she's saying that they don't really have anything, subhanAllah, right? So, now, let's go down. So the Prophet ﷺ, yani she had a goat. There was a goat. It was very weak. And he asked her, does this goat have milk? She said, no. The Prophet bring her to me. He started milking her, touching her, and so much milk came out of that. Okay? So much milk came out of that. Okay? And he knew this is a miracle. Okay? He mentioned the name of Allah, and this is a miracle. Okay? So they all drank. The entire group, everyone was able to drink. Ma'bad was able to drink. Her family, everyone was able to drink from this milk. Now let's go down. Now, more. After their departure, Ma'bad's husband came back. And again, subhanAllah, if you look at it, Akhtam ibn Abi al-Jawn al-Khuzai. Okay? يعني, I want you to just, sometimes we obviously stop at certain things and we try to take lessons. There's just an amazing lesson here. And the lesson is, well, the the lesson here is that we know even the names of these people were not that, like, it's not like such a key player. Look, we know so much. The knowledge in Islam is so detailed of all the issue, all the people, who they are, what tribe they're from. Like, we know so much, subhanAllah, the name and the detail, and it's so amazing. Could say it was a man and a woman. No, if you look at most of the stories and histories like that, we know all the names and the locations and the tribes, and it just shows how Islam was preserved and the strength of Islam, subhanAllah. Okay, now, so she told him who the Prophet ﷺ was and what happened, and now, and let's go down. Now, so Abu Ma'bad, who was delighted and gave and have he was very happy. He asked, like, to describe this man. So this is where we have the description of the Prophet ﷺ, one of the most accurate descriptions of his being is from Ma'bad, from this event. Okay, so Ali bin Abi Talib's description is stated the most accurate and comprehensive. Okay, but he was the one who lived the Prophet ﷺ, and he was influenced by him. But then Ma'bad described him to her husband, and you can say this was a very, very, the peak of all description. So she observed him and she described him. She was a Bedouin, obviously, but look at the amount of detail that she gives in her description. Imam Tirmidhi narrates this description in the Shamal al-Tirmidhi, Shamal al-Muhammadiyan, that I think we studied before, and describing the Prophet ﷺ. Okay? Neither tall, neither short, and so on. So let's go down. Now, of course, Yani, you cannot say that this was a perfect description, because no one, I think, could give justice to the Prophet ﷺ. No one can do justice to the Prophet ﷺ description. The Prophet ﷺ just, and no one should, okay, feel like they can describe. Yeah. So this is something very important to understand. So let's go down. Let's see if they give the description. Now, go down a bit more. So here we see that, and she paid attention to details. A man who is clearly handsome and with a beautiful face. He is well built. He is neither blemished by a big belly nor disfigured by an unusual small head. So he didn't have a big belly, nor did he have a small head. The pupils of his eyes are very dark. The edges of his eyelids are long, and the area around the pupils of his eyes is so white. Now, it means she paid attention, looked at him. His eyebrows are perfectly closed. He has a very dark hair, a rather long neck, and a thick beard. When he kept silent, he is always contemplative, and when he speaks, eminence and splendor shows in his words. His words are like sliding stringed pearls. He is gifted orator. He is a gifted orator whose words are neither too few nor too much. He has the clearest wand and the most audible voice when he speaks. When you look at him from afar, he is the most handsome of all people. When you move closer to him, he is the most pleasant of them. You'll never be tired of looking at him. He is like a branch between two branches. He is the most handsome of the three. Give it to Abu Bakr and the other, and the most important of them. He has companions who honored them. When he speaks, they hold down. When he speaks, they listen to his words, and when he commands, they hasten to carry out his order. They serve him and rally around him. He does not frown or nag. Abu Ma'bad said, by Allah, this is the Quraysh men. If I see him, I will follow. Meaning he knew, he heard about him. But this is the Prophet. He claims to be a prophet. In another narration, he said, I intend to follow him if I am able to. And this had actually happened for Ma'bad, and her husband headed for Medina, embraced Islam, swore allegiance to the Prophet ﷺ, and kept his company till they made hijrah. There was with them a brother of Ma'bad known as Umays, and he was the narrator of this report. Allah honored him with martyrdom on the day of the conquest of Mecca. Okay, there's some observation we'd like to make and attention here to the story of Ma'bad. Let's go down. And that is one, the tribe of Khuza'ah, to which Ma'bad and her husband belonged, were allies of Abdul Muttalib, the Prophet's grandfather, before the advent of Islam. When the light of Islam illuminated, they inclined towards the Prophet ﷺ. So they're sincere to the Prophet ﷺ until Allah permitted them to enter into the fold of Islam. When the truce of Hudaybiyah was concluded, they became the Prophet's allies, and the tribe of Banu Bakr entered into allegiance with the Quraysh. The Banu Bakr then violated the truce by attacking Banu Khuza'ah. Amr ibn Salim al-Khuza'i then came to Medina seeking the support of the Prophet. Amr recited a long poem in his regard. Part of it reads, O Allah, I am imploring Muhammad in the name of the inherited and time-honored allegiance or alliance that is between his father and our father. The Prophet answered him, you will indeed be helped, O Amr ibn Salim. This is the event that later led to the clear victory and great conquest. Ma'bad was therefore from amongst the people who were loved by Allah and His Messenger. She was a branch of a noble tall tree. 2. It was said, according to the report narrated by Waqidi, that the goat which the Prophet rubbed her udder and milk with his noble hands lived for many years, giving abundant milk. There are many reports in this regard. We do not know this as a surprise, for it's a natural. This is a blessing and it's a miracle. The Prophet did this many times, by the way. And here a point, when people like to use hadith to like defame Islam, I always tell them, look, if you believe in this hadith that you're trying to use it to defame Islam, then you have to believe also in the hadith that showed the miracles of Islam. Okay? 3. May Allah bless Ma'bad, the Bedouin, was illiterate, and she was daughter of the desert. She did not graduate from any university. Did not have any, I don't know, something super duper. But look at her. After 14th century, we still need, a dictionary to understand her expressions. So then we can explain it to others. So she was so deep. The description that she gave is one of the greatest descriptions, and to the point that she describes the eyes of the Prophet ﷺ. Right? No university degree, no special treatment or nothing, just a woman of the Bedouin of the desert. But beautiful, beautiful, story. Amazing woman. Amazing woman. And that's the point of these lessons. The point is that we want to understand, compare, like in this book, for example, specifically is women. How do women today act? What are they seeking izzah with or honor with versus those women? Are women today mostly seeking honor with a degree, a piece of paper that would put in a frame and put maybe on the wall somewhere? And that's it, CV, these kind of achievements. Well, these women that were around the Prophet ﷺ, they sought honor with Islam, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? She was wrapped in her garments. That's what the description was, not showing her body, not wrapped around so that people can see her shapes. Different, very different. That's what we learn. We learn so we can say, this is my role model, not Cardi B, not I don't know who, not some famous Malaysian singer who's singing in front of 1,000 soldiers, on a stage wearing hijab, or not some heavy metal band of Malaysian sisters wearing hijab, thinking that this is liberation or this is, something cool. And it's really horrible when I see this. SubhanAllah. Where are their fathers? Where are their brothers? Where's the ummah? Where is their self-haya and their self-policing? Right? Not to display themselves in that order and to make this mockery of themselves in their hijab. Really, wallahi. So that's why we're studying this book, to understand who are real role models, who are the ones that Allah and His Messenger accepted. Right? And then naturally women should say, hey, then this is what I have to follow. I have to be like this. I should, this is what I should do. Right? That's what's important. Yeah. Let's go down. Okay. Ammara. Ammara. Okay, this is Nasiba bin Ka'b al-Mazaniyah al-Anshariyah radiyallahu anha. And she is, okay, so those girls are Indonesian. Yeah, okay, that's true. But to be honest, I've seen in Malaysia in like a restaurant in Kota Damansara, a bunch of girls singing the guitar and performing in front of people with hijab. So I don't know. And people are seem to enjoy it. So I've seen it in Malaysia as well. I was quite shocked. But yeah, I think that group that you said they are in Indonesia. You're right. There's one now in Saudi Arabia as well. I don't know if you saw it. One is trying to wear a niqab, like a tablecloth, to cover her face. Maybe out of shame, Allah alim, but yeah, saying that it's not. But it's horrible. It's really horrible. Yeah. Yeah, not heavy metal, but other stuff. And still not good. May Allah protect. Not to pick on Malaysia or Indonesia, but it's just, something that we don't want to. Sometimes, shame is part of the deen, part of the deen. إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحِي فَاصْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. If you are not ashamed, then do as you please, as the Prophet ﷺ said. Now, so she is very brilliant personality, and again, some of these things we don't hear, but Ammar, it's amazing how the author writes, because he addresses like Ammar, says, "Oh Ammar, it is with due respect to and love for you that I humbly acquainting our daughters, sisters, and mothers with lessons drawn from your faith, your struggle in the way of Allah, and your motherliness at a time when we are all in dire need of these lessons." Right? It's a beautiful, beautiful statement by the author. It's like almost he is talking to her, complaining of the need for women to follow her example. For these days, truth had been mixed with falsehood. Things had been turned upside down, and the minds wander aimlessly. So much, and we do not know how to move on or where to go. Beautiful. What a beautiful statement. Let's go down a bit. Perhaps we will all have a resurgence that can bring us out of the abyss of loss to the peak of the straight path, the path of those on whom Allah's favor and mercy. Ammara had no son whose name is Ammar, from whom her nickname is derived. It was only a kunya nickname, just like that. She was in the prime of her youthfulness and newlywed when she had the honor of meeting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So down in the middle of the night at the pledge of Aqaba, along with the delegation of the Ansar. They all embraced Islam and she did, and they swore their allegiance and she did. A sister of her known as Many was also with her, and she also swore allegiance. Al-Waqidi narrated that Ibn Abi Sa'a from Amara that she said the men were placing their hands in the hand of the Prophet ﷺ, giving their allegiance. The Prophet ﷺ was holding his hand. When it was my turn and my sister, my husband, Rabah bin Amar said, MashaAllah, there are 2 women who came to swear allegiance to. The Prophet ﷺ said, I accept their allegiance upon things regarding which I accept yours. I do not shake women's hands. SubhanAllah. Okay. Particles of the Pledge of Aqaba are the first foundation upon which the great change that took place. Okay. That took place in the course of the Dawah was based. So these changes, including moving from passive jihad to active, from enduring persecution to remaining steadfast, waging a relentless fight against the polytheism and disbelief. This jihad that is no restricted by the swords, the spears, and the battlefields. Rather, a jihad that includes war against all kinds of corruption deviations. Okay, in order to build individuals. Now, and to society. Now, yeah, let's stop here. We'll stop here, inshallah. Okay, because I have to go for salah. Inshallah, we'll continue next time. Barakallahu fikum. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Please keep the questions that we had about the Prophet's family for next time, and we'll discuss, inshallah.
Barakallah, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.